I want to start off just by saying that this commentary that I am is based on my personal opinion, should not reflect your opinion whatsoever if you want to see the movie. But I will be reviewing it in a way that might reveal some spoilers. So I would be forewarning you if you continue to watch this movie that you might be hearing some spoilers. Now, I thought the movie was well done. I thought it was action packed. It had a lot of focus on the Hutt cartel and stuff we don't get to see a lot in the Star Wars movies. I mean, they mentioned the Hutt cartel and the fear of the Hutt cartel, but the main villains in this, which is the Hutt twins that you first see in the Book of Boba Fett series. It really focuses on the evil that the Hutts can do and the grudges that they do hold if you cross them. Um, Here's some spoilers, but obviously they were trying to take out Rhoda the Hutt to gain control of the Hutt cartel and everything that Jabba the Hutt owned, all his cartel and his power. And Rhoda the Hutt was the heir to that throne. So they were trying to trick the Mandalorian and the New Republic in order to gain access to Rhoda the Hutt and to place a hit on him. I don't know if you've seen the Clone Wars either, but Zero the Hutt also attempted to assassinate Rhoda the Hutt, or maybe he kidnapped Rhoda the Hutt in an attempt to get some power or money from Jabba. Um, and in the Lego Star Wars video game, Mama the Hutt does tell you, your character, to find um, the little singer lady that you see in the Star Wars movie, the new one, the remade one, who was Zero's love interest. And Sai Noodles, or Miss Snooty, gorgeous creature, by the way, if you ever see what she looks like. Part-time bounty hunter, but most of the time a terrible singer, or a singer in the Star Wars universe. And then, of course, you have the very gorgeous Mama the Hutt, who is Zero's mother. And to reiterate what I was saying about what Mama the Hutt placed a bounty on Sai Soodles, or Sai Snoodles, in the Lego video game as one of your tasks. Because she was, I think, the reason that Zero died in the series. Like, she shot Zero the Hutt. Oh, and Size Noodles also killed Zero on behalf of, or ordered by Jabba the Hutt, or a hit placed on from Jabba the Hutt for Zero stealing Rhoda the Hutt. And she also 2 times Zero as his love interest, even though the character technically was extremely flamboyant and did give off the appearance of being part of the LGBTQ community, just the way his voice was, and but he was a bona fide heterosexual into Psy. Zero had displayed mannerisms that were not very friendly, and also were usually conniving of trying to get power, and was power hungry. He worked with Count Dooku and Ventress in order to sabotage the Jedi's from forming a relationship with the cartel and getting on good terms with each other. So that was the whole point of Zero doing this malicious thing with Rhoda, where Jabba the Hutt was taken into custody and arrested. And, Hutts hold grudges. So I think when Zero was mourning the loss of Papa the Hutt, which is Mama the Hutt's husband, and is Mama the Hutt and Papa the Hutt are Jabba the Hutt, and Zero is the uncle of Jabba, and Mama the Hutt is the mother of Zero. So you can do the math. Jabba's father, which is the older brother of Zero, was more a favorite of Mama the Hutt. And I guess Mama the Hutt was always holding them one above the other, and Zero was always trying to get approval from Mama the Hutt and Papa the Hutt, and getting in their good graces. How a mob family usually would be like. They plotted in the kidnapping of Rhoda the Hutt. So Mama the Hutt places a hit on them because Hutts, who are notoriously feared in the Star Wars galaxy, if you cross them, they do hold grudges and they will place a contractual bounty on you, which is what the character ran into during the movie. The Mandalorian had a bounty placed on him, um, and that's because he refused to turn over Rhoda the Hutt to the twins, which is what they call them, the twins in the movie. Also, the twins had a really cool. Instead of a raincore, they had a really cool giant eel monster that hid inside the depths of the water underneath their platform, um, where they would cause their enemies to fall. And well, let's just say the twins met their deaths in a karma deserving way, um, and it felt like it was well deserved, and they got what they deserved. Also, they spend a chunk of time focusing on Grogu and Grogu's experience surviving on the Hutt planet, in which where the twins are ruling that section of the Hutt planet, because I guess a bunch of Hutts rule the Hutt planet. You know, they have various Hutts, but he spends a lot of time focusing on the different creatures and the different inhabitants of the Hutt planets. So the giant dragon snake that you see that is in the Hutt's trap door, where they feed enemies to the dragon snake. They inhabit the swamps of cut. It's the Hutt planet. I can't pronounce the name or just think of it off the top of my head. The Hutt planet is Nalhutta, and it's in the Hutt space between the outer rim and the inner rim. I guess that's where the Hutt clans kind of control all the trade and everything that goes on in that portion of space. And so this is around the time that Jabba the Hutt was deceased. And so the twins were trying to get control of his throne, Tatooine. Building, that's what they do. Were there for in the Book of Boba Fett, when Boba Fett took over Jabba's palace, and yeah, so Hutts were trying to divide all of Jabba's assets into dividends, I guess, for them to control, or who can get control of it first, because they're a power hungry species, and Zero was the perfect example of that. But and then they have a bunch of like water serpent, like snake like creatures that also inhabit it and the swamps, and you run into them, um, and so Grogu had to run into them and avoid them on various times when he was surviving, when the Mandalorian was suffering from the poison of the dragon snake. Um, Again, this is a spoiler. I did warn you at the beginning of the video that there are going to be spoilers if you watch this far into it. Um, but it does focus on Grogu's um, fondness for the Mandalorian and nursing him back to health and finding a cure for the poison and focusing, like channeling the Force in order to survive the conditions of the Hutt planet. Um, when the Mandalorian first meets Rhoda the Hutt, Rhoda the Hutt is behind a cage, and Mandalorian has happened to sneak into the facility using Grogu. Grogu opens the door for him to sneak them in, so he can talk to Jabba, and they do this twice before Rhoda, who doesn't want to go back because he is a revered champion of this facility, and he has one more fight to win his freedom. And so Rhoda the Hutt wants to do it heroically. He doesn't want to live in his father's footsteps, his father Jabba the Hutt, if we haven't established that. And he wants to be well respected. He doesn't want to be feared. He doesn't want to be hated anymore because when they first started, they were booing. But the fans also only are there to cheer him on to die, and that's what they're there to see. Which he learns later on when the Mandalorian's captured and forced to fight under war criminal Coin, who the New Republic sends the Mandalorian to a bounty. Which this whole thing of why Mandalorian's doing this task for the New Republic is he refused to work with the Hutt twins or any Hutt in general. He had Hutt bias, and that's understandably so because the Hutts are notoriously evil, most of them. Rhoda didn't want to fall in that, but the whole point of them doing this was to find Coin, who is the guy you find out later who is the one setting up the death scenario for Rhoda the Hutt in order to get control of his empire, the Hutt cartel. I like to explain the movie The Mandalorian and Grogu. It's a cute movie that stars the two characters named in the title Big Surprise. This movie focuses on Mandalorian as acting as a bounty hunter after the fall of the Galactic Empire. Grogu, who is his trusty and cute tag along, also in the movie. After it takes place after the fall of Jabba the Hutt, the New Republic tasks Mandalorian with hunting down the Imperial war criminals to help stabilize the galaxy. The Mandalorian and Grogu are also tasked with the New Republic to help relatives of Jabba with rescuing Rhoda the Hutt, their nephew, Jabba the Hutt's son, who had been forced into um, contractual fighting for his freedom. Imprisoned by the notorious crime lord Janu Coin, who has evaded the eyes of the New Republic for years, Janu planned to kill Rhoda the Hutt to seize control of the Hutt Trail in a final all-out match where he continued to throw tough monsters at Rhoda the Hutt until he dies and tires out. In this, I want to say that there was I found the movie very interesting. I thought the characters were well developed, and the twins were as menacing as the Hutt should be. I like that it focused on the Hutt planet, what you haven't seen in a lot of Star Wars movies, because a lot of times the Hutt planet is outside of the New Republic's jurisdiction, and so they hyper focused on the Hutt planet and the inhabitants of the Hutts and the creatures. And you saw like their little chess game characters that you saw in the first movie when they're playing chess. You actually saw some of those creatures in the battle scene between Rhoda the Hutt and uh, Rhoda the Hutt and his final skirmish. Um, And so, yeah, it also made you, obviously, Mandalorian's well respected at this point. I thought it was good for a movie. I thought it didn't need it to be in a TV series. I thought a movie was good enough for it to be um, action packed enough. There were some slow moments, but I think the slow moments were necessary in order to build up the emotional connection between Grogu and the Mandalorian, and Grogu's bond with him, and um, caring for his caretaker for years, and returning that favor. Which one of the quotes in there is, the old takes care of the young and the young takes care of the old. um, and that was, kind of a father son bond that, and there was multiple times where the Hutts had mentioned his young one in order to manipulate Mandalorian to go for Rhoda, which Rhoda was a young one at the time, and they pretended to be caring for him as their uncle and aunt, but they really had alternative motives, which is, again, falls into the nature of the Hutts, always having alternative motives. Um, and there was a time where, even they were mentioning the Hutts would devour Grogu, and they tried to, and Rhoda the Hutt stopped him before they could grab him. Um, which is why you also felt like karma was deserved at the end of it, when they fell in the trap door. You know.